Supreme Commander Vexthor of the Zoraxian Empire stood before the holographic display, his iridescent scales reflecting the soft blue glow of Earth's image. The third planet of this unremarkable solar system had been marked as an expansion target for decades, but only now had the High Council finally approved the reconnaissance mission. Their scans had detected primitive nuclear technology, internal combustion vehicles, and countless electromagnetic transmissions that suggested a species barely past its industrial age. Fascinating, Vexthor muttered, his secondary breathing apparatus clicking softly. They still fight among themselves over arbitrary territorial boundaries. He gestured to his senior analyst. Show me their military capabilities again. The hologram shifted, displaying various Earth weapons and vehicles. Projectile-based weapons, combustion engine vehicles, and crewed space vessels that barely reached their own moon. The Zoraxian military intelligence had classified Earth as a Category 3 civilization, technically capable of space travel, but centuries away from being a genuine interstellar threat. Supreme Commander, his analyst began, our latest observations suggest they spend more resources on entertainment than space exploration. They appear to be stuck in endless diplomatic disagreements between their nation-states. Our simulations suggest a 99.8% chance of immediate surrender upon demonstration of our superior technology. Vexthor's feeding tentacles curled in satisfaction. The Zoraxian Empire had subjugated 17 other species, and each conquest had followed the same pattern. Show overwhelming force, demand surrender, and establish control before the primitive species could unite. It was almost boring in its predictability. Deploy the probe, he ordered. Standard first contact protocols. The sleek, crystalline probe launched from the cloaked mothership, its quantum drives humming quietly as it descended through Earth's atmosphere. They had chosen a population center called Singapore for the first demonstration, a wealthy hub that would understand the futility of resistance. But something went wrong almost immediately. Supreme Commander, the tactical officer's scales shifted to alarm purple. The humans, they're tracking the probe. Impossible, Vexthor dismissed. Their technology is far too primitive to detect our stealth systems. Sir, they're not using technology we expected. They've networked thousands of civilian devices, smartphones, weather stations, amateur astronomy equipment. They're using distributed computing and artificial intelligence to process the data. Before Vexthor could respond, the tactical display erupted with warnings. Dozens of primitive satellites had suddenly changed orbit, creating a crude but effective observation network. Ground-based systems were tracking the probe's descent with surprising accuracy. Fascinating, Vexthor admitted. They're adapting existing technology in unexpected ways. But it doesn't matter. Proceed with the demonstration. The probe reached its designated altitude over Singapore when the first surprise came. Instead of panic in the streets, the humans appeared to be executing pre-planned evacuation protocols. Even more disturbing, their military response seemed to have been prepared in advance. Sir, they're launching countermeasures. The tactical officer's scales were now cycling through colors of confusion and concern. But these aren't standard weapons. They're using modified communication satellites to broadcast interference patterns. They've transformed their cell phone networks into a planetary sensor array. Their social media platforms are coordinating civilian responses faster than our AI can analyze them. Vexthor's feeding tentacles twisted in agitation. This wasn't following any of the standard conquest patterns. The humans weren't fighting with just their military. Their entire civilization was responding as one adaptive organism while maintaining their apparent chaos and individualism. Impossible, he whispered as the probe's systems began failing one by one. The humans weren't using advanced technology to defeat it. They were using their primitive technology in ways the Zoraxian Empire had never conceived possible. Sir, his analyst's voice trembled slightly. I believe we need to recalculate our assessment. The humans, they're not primitive. They're something else entirely. Their apparent technological limitations aren't a weakness. They're a sign of something we've never encountered before. Explain, Vex Thor demanded, watching as the probe's remaining systems were systematically neutralized by what should have been inferior technology. Sir, every other species we've encountered developed technology in a linear, predictable pattern. The humans, they develop laterally. They don't wait for perfect solutions. They adapt what they have. They're not united under one government, but they unite instantly against external threats while maintaining their diversity. It's beautiful in a terrifying way. As if to punctuate the analyst's observation, the probe's final systems failed. Their first contact mission, designed to demonstrate overwhelming technological superiority, had been defeated by a species that turned their social media networks into impromptu military command and control systems. Send word to the High Council, Vex Thor ordered, his scales shifting to the deep blue of profound realization. The humans aren't a primitive species waiting to be conquered. They're something new, something dangerous, something we need to understand before we even think about challenging. As the message was transmitted, Vex Thor watched the humans already adapting their planetary defenses based on what they'd learned from the probe. They weren't just learning. They were evolving their strategies in real time, turning their perceived weaknesses into unprecedented strengths. The conquest of Earth would have to wait. First, the Zoraxian Empire needed to learn a lesson that would soon become a universal law. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their military might. It was their unparalleled ability to adapt, innovate, and unite without sacrificing their chaos-driven creativity. Admiral Sarah Chen sat in the bustling United Earth Defense Command Center, a repurposed shopping mall in Manitoba that perfectly embodied humanity's talent for improvisation. Holographic displays powered by gaming engines showed the positions of the Zoraxian fleet, while teenage Minecraft modders helped create real-time 3D battle simulations. Report on the Zoraxian response to Operation Chaos, she commanded, sipping coffee from a mug emblazoned with "Keep calm and confuse aliens." Dr. James Martinez, head of TENUP Psychology, stepped forward. His lab coat pockets bulged with an odd collection of fidget toys and snacks, tools that helped him think laterally. They're completely baffled, Admiral. Their entire military doctrine is based on precision, hierarchy, and predictability. Our strategies are giving their tactical AIs the equivalent of a nervous breakdown. On the main screen, dozens of small Earth ships performed what appeared to be random maneuvers. In reality, they were executing complex patterns derived from everything from bee swarm behavior to professional football plays. The Zoraxian fleet, despite its superior technology, couldn't establish a coherent targeting solution. "Show me the social media integration," Chen ordered. The display split, showing millions of civilian communications. Rather than try to control information flow during the crisis, Earth's governments had embraced chaos. Every smartphone on the planet had become a sensor node, every social media platform a command and control system. "The memes are working better than expected," Martins grinned. "Every time the Zoraxians adapt to one of our strategies, humans worldwide spontaneously generate new tactics and share them. We're evolving faster than their predictive algorithms can handle." A junior analyst raised her hand, her neon hair reflecting off the screens. "Admiral, you need to see this. Remember that TikTok trend about dancing in geometrical patterns? Some teenagers in Brazil realized it could be used to create electromagnetic interference with Zoraxian targeting systems. It's already gone viral. Flash mobs worldwide are disrupting their sensor networks." Chen allowed herself a small smile. The Zoraxians had expected to face Earth's military forces. Instead, they were fighting an entire species that turned everything, even their entertainment, into unexpected weapons. "Update on Project Remix?" she asked. Martinez pulled up another display. "Better than we hoped. Those K-pop stars agreed to help. Their choreographers are working with quantum physicists to design dance moves that, when performed by millions of fans simultaneously, create planet-wide interference patterns. The Zoraxians literally can't comprehend using synchronized dancing as electronic warfare. The Admiral stood, walking to a window that overlooked the mall's food court, now converted into a think tank where video game designers worked alongside military strategists. They thought our diversity was weakness, she mused. They thought our chaos was inefficiency. They were so focused on our technology level, they never considered that technology isn't our primary advantage. A sudden alert drew their attention back to the main display. The Zoraxian fleet was attempting a new formation, one designed to counter Earth's seemingly random defense patterns. But they were already too late. They're still trying to find a logic in our actions, Martinez observed. They don't understand that humans are perfectly comfortable operating in chaos. Every time they identify a pattern in our behavior, we've already moved on to something new. The evidence was clear on the tactical displays. Earth's defenses looked like madness to conventional military analysis. Civilian boats equipped with modified satellite dishes, commercial drones reprogrammed with swarm intelligence, and millions of coordinated but independent human actions creating an ever-evolving defensive network. "Sir," another analyst called out, "the Zoraxian fleet is showing signs of tactical paralysis. Their command structure requires clear patterns to formulate responses, but our defense grid keeps shifting faster than their hierarchy can approve new strategies." Chen nodded, unsurprised. That's the human factor they didn't account for. We don't need permission to innovate. We don't wait for perfect solutions. We grab whatever's available, modify it to our needs, and act. By the time they understand one of our adaptations, we've already implemented a dozen more. The massive screen showed another Zoraxian ship withdrawing from Earth's orbit, its sensors overwhelmed by the cacophony of signals, its tactical computers unable to form coherent threat assessments. They had expected to face a primitive military force. Instead, they faced an entire species that turned chaos into strategy, weakness into strength, and imagination into reality. "Send word to all commands," Chen ordered, her voice carrying the weight of history. "Operation Chaos is working. Humanity's greatest weapon isn't our technology. It's our creativity, our adaptability, and our comfort with chaos." The Zoraxians came expecting to fight Earth's military. Instead, they're fighting the collective imagination of every human on the planet. As if to emphasize her point, another alert sounded. Somewhere in Seoul, a group of gamers had figured out how to use old PlayStation controllers to pilot defensive drones. In Mumbai, cricket players were using their understanding of spin bowling to develop new missile defense patterns. In Lagos, traffic controllers were repurposing their systems to create citywide sensor networks. The human factor wasn't just working, it was rewriting the rules of interstellar warfare. And the Zoraxians were learning a costly lesson. Never underestimate a species that turns their entire civilization into an adaptive defense system. The Grand Galactic Council's emergency session was unprecedented in both scale and tension. Representatives from over 300 spacefaring civilizations crowded the crystalline chamber, their various environmental suits and biological adaptation systems creating a symphony of whirs, clicks, and hums. High Counselor Zinla of the Meridian Collective, her photosynthetic fronds glowing with agitation, addressed the assembly. "The Zoraxian Empire's failed invasion of Earth has forced us to confront an uncomfortable truth. Our entire classification system for emerging civilizations is fundamentally flawed." The holographic display in the center of the chamber showed Earth, a seemingly unremarkable planet that had just shattered centuries of established galactic doctrine. Around it, data streams displayed countless examples of human innovation that defied conventional analysis. "Consider," Zinla continued, her fronds pulsing with emphasis, "how we've always measured civilizational advancement, technological progression, social unity, military capability. By every traditional metric, humans should have been an easy conquest for the Zoraxians. Instead, the display shifted to show footage that had the entire galaxy buzzing. Zoraxian warships retreating from Earth, Their supposedly invincible systems compromised not by superior technology, but by humanity's inexplicable ability to repurpose primitive tools in ways no other species had imagined. Ambassador kiths of the silicon consciousness, their quantum matrix flickering with calculation patterns, interfaced with the chamber systems. Our error was fundamental. We assumed technological advancement followed a linear path. Humans don't progress linearly. They progress fractally. Each apparent limitation becomes a spawning point for countless adaptations. The evidence was undeniable. Humans had turned their planet's primitive internet into a defense grid that adapted faster than Zoraxian battle computers could analyze. They'd transformed their entertainment systems into weapons platforms. They'd even weaponized their social media networks into a planetary coordination system that operated without central control. Most disturbing, rumbled Grand Strategist Mach of the warrior clans, his battle-scarred exoskeleton creaking as he rose, is their ability to unite without uniformity. Every species we know requires rigid hierarchy for coordinated action. Humans somehow become stronger by maintaining their chaos. It defies all military logic. The chamber erupted in overlapping discussions, each species trying to process this paradigm shift through their own evolutionary lens. The silicon consciousness couldn't comprehend a species that chose inefficient individual creativity over optimized collective thinking. The warrior clans were disturbed by fighters who treated combat like an art form rather than a science. "There's more," Zinla announced, silencing the chamber. "Our deep analysis of human history reveals something even more significant. Their greatest innovations often come from what they call play. They simulate scenarios for entertainment, then apply those simulations to real challenges. Their children's games become military strategies. Their entertainment becomes training." The holographic display showed examples. Video game players coordinating drone swarms, social media influencers directing information warfare, sports tactics being adapted for space combat. It was beautiful and terrifying in its unpredictability. Ambassador Tilara of the ancient archives, their crystalline form refracting light, in patterns of deep concern, added their perspective. In all our records, spanning millions of years and thousands of species, we've never encountered a civilization like this. They don't wait for ideal solutions. They adapt available tools. They don't seek perfection. They embrace good enough and keep innovating. The diplomatic implications are clear, Kiths projected. Traditional forms of pressure, negotiation, or intimidation will not work with humans. They don't follow expected patterns of behavior. Every attempt to constrain them becomes a catalyst for new adaptations. Zinla's fronds dimmed to a serious shade of deep blue. We must establish new protocols for human interaction, not because they're primitive, but because they're different in ways our civilizations have never encountered. They're not less advanced. They're advancing along axes we never considered possible. The chamber's mood shifted from confusion to something approaching awe as more data streamed in. Humans were already adapting Zoraxian technology they'd captured, not by understanding its principles, but by experimenting with it like children with new toys. They weren't reverse engineering it. They were playing with it, finding applications its creators had never imagined. "I propose," Zinla concluded, "that we create a new classification specifically for Earth, not based on their technology level or military capability, but on their unique ability to turn limitations into advantages. We must approach them not as primitives to be guided or threats to be contained, but as a species that could either become the galaxy's greatest allies or its most unpredictable adversaries." The vote was unanimous, a rarity in Galactic Council history. Earth would be classified in a category of its own, with a simple but profound warning attached: approach with respect. Their apparent primitive state is not weakness. It is simply humanity focusing their incredible adaptability on their own unique path of advancement. As the session concluded, Ambassador Tilara shared one final observation. "Perhaps we are the primitive ones, thinking advancement only flows in one direction. The humans have shown us that true civilization might not be about reaching a particular level of technology, but about maintaining the ability to constantly adapt, innovate, and reimagine what's possible. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before the captured Zoraxian warship, its crystalline hull now covered in what looked like a chaotic mess of human modifications. The sight would have horrified any traditional spacefaring race, but to her, it was beautiful. Every jury-rigged addition, every improvised upgrade represented humanity's unique approach to technology. Status report. She called out to her team of engineers, scientists, and what any other species would consider an oddly high number of artists and gamers. Maya Chen, a former video game designer turned xenotechnology specialist, looked up from her augmented reality display. The neural interface is still fighting us, but we found a workaround. Turns out the ship's quantum processors respond to music. We've got a DJ booth wired into the command center now. Elena nodded, unsurprised. In the 3 months since they'd captured the warship, every breakthrough had come from thinking sideways rather than forward. The Zoraxians had designed their technology to be incomprehensible to primitive species, never imagining that humans would simply ignore trying to understand it, and instead focus on finding creative ways to make it work. "Show me the engine modifications," she requested, following Maya through corridors that blended alien architecture with distinctly human chaos. They'd covered quantum state panels with graffiti that somehow improved their efficiency. Gaming controllers salvaged from old consoles were wired into weapon systems, their basic nature actually bypassing the ship's complex security. "Here's the really interesting part," Maya explained, reaching the engine room. "Remember how we couldn't decode their engineering principles? Well, we stopped trying. Instead, we've got a team of jazz musicians working with quantum physicists. Turns out the ship's faster-than-light drive responds to improvisation patterns. We're literally flying this thing through hyperspace using jazz." The engine room looked like a cross between a concert hall and a physics lab. In one corner, a saxophone player worked with an AI to modulate the quantum field. In another, a group of teenage hackers had somehow connected the ship's defensive systems to a modified Dance Revolution pad. The Zoraxians designed everything to be perfect, precise, and predictable. Elena observed, watching the organized chaos of human innovation at work. They never considered that imperfection could be an advantage. That chaos could be a feature, not a bug. A sudden alert drew their attention to a nearby screen. Young Charlie Park, who'd earned his position on the project by modding video games, pulled up a holographic display. "We've cracked another one of their encrypted systems. Turns out their security is only complicated if you approach it logically. We got in by treating it like a puzzle game and trying random combinations until we found patterns they never expected." Elena smiled, remembering how the galactic community had reacted to human methods. They'd expected Earth to take decades to understand captured Zoraxian technology. Instead, humanity had simply started playing with it, treating advanced alien systems like new toys to be experimented with rather than mysteries to be reverently studied. "Update on Project Symphony?" she asked, referring to their attempt to reverse engineer Zoraxian quantum communications. Maya's grin widened. "Better than we hoped. We got a group of composers working with information theorists. They're treating quantum entanglement like musical harmony. The Zoraxians used complex mathematics to manage quantum states. We're using jazz fusion, and it's actually working better. Their rigid algorithms can't adapt to our improvised quantum harmonies." The implications were staggering. Humanity wasn't just copying alien technology. They were reimagining it, approaching it with their unique blend of creativity, improvisation, and willingness to try seemingly ridiculous solutions. "Any word from the galactic community?" Charlie asked, still manipulating the ship's systems through what appeared to be a modified gamepad. Elena checked her tablet, which was itself a hybrid of human and alien tech. "They're still trying to understand how we're doing this. Their scientists can't comprehend how we're making advancements without following their established research protocols. They keep asking for our methodology, and we keep telling them the truth. We're just trying things until something works. Successful test of the modified weapons system sent a vibration through the ship. In the testing chamber, a group of artists had reconfigured the energy beam patterns using color theory principles that somehow made them more efficient. That's humanity's real superpower, Maya observed, watching the test results. We don't wait until we fully understand something to start improving it. We learn by doing, adapt by playing, and innovate by breaking rules we never knew existed. The ship's internal lighting shifted through a rainbow pattern, an error they decided to keep because it helped crew members track quantum fluctuations intuitively. Like everything humans touched, the captured warship had evolved from a perfect, sterile example of advanced technology into something that looked chaotic, but worked better than its designers had ever imagined. "Send word to command," Alina ordered, watching her impossible team continue their work. "Project adaptation is exceeding all expectations. We're not just learning to use their technology. We're teaching it to dance." 1 year after the failed Zoraxian invasion, the galaxy had changed. The massive chamber of the Galactic Council now included a new addition, a seemingly chaotic but surprisingly functional human embassy that reflected Earth's unique approach to, well, everything. Ambassador Maria Torres sat in what appeared to be a repurposed gaming chair, modified with alien technology and surprisingly ergonomic for most species. Around her, the traditional crystalline architecture of the council chamber had been supplemented with what her team called humanized interfaces, systems that worked through creative interaction rather than rigid protocols. Distinguished members of the council, she addressed the assembled representatives. 1 year ago, the Zoraxian Empire thought they found a primitive civilization ready for conquest. Instead, they discovered something that has forced us all to reconsider what advancement really means. The central hologram displayed Earth's rapid integration into galactic society. But unlike every other species, humans hadn't simply adopted advanced alien technology. They'd transformed it, combined it with their own innovations, and created entirely new approaches that had the galaxy's greatest minds reeling. "Humanity's gift isn't our technology," Torres continued, her voice carrying across the chamber. "It's our ability to adapt, to play, to find solutions in chaos. We don't advance in a straight line. We expand in all directions simultaneously." Supreme Commander Vexthor, now serving as the Zoraxian ambassador following his empire's shift toward peaceful cooperation, raised his feeding tentacles in agreement. The Zoraxian Empire's greatest mistake wasn't underestimating Earth's military capability. It was failing to understand that humans don't follow predictable patterns of advancement. They don't climb the technological ladder. They dance around it, finding new paths we never imagined. The evidence was undeniable. Human innovations were spreading throughout galactic society, not because they were more advanced, but because they approached problems from angles other species had never considered. Earth's International Space Station, once considered primitive, had become a hub of innovation, where species from across the galaxy came to learn humanity's unique approach to problem-solving. High Counselor Zinlas Franz glowed with academic interest. "The humans have taught us that true advancement isn't about reaching a particular level of technology. It's about maintaining the ability to adapt, to innovate, to find new solutions. Their chaos isn't a weakness. It's the source of their strength." Ambassador Tilura's crystalline form sparkled as they added, "They've established what we now call the human paradigm. Advancement doesn't have to follow a predetermined path. Sometimes the most primitive solution, applied creatively, works better than the most advanced technology." Torres nodded, pulling up new displays. "Which brings us to our proposal for the new galactic rules of engagement. Rule 1. Never mistake different for primitive. Rule 2. Adaptation and innovation can flow in any direction. Rule 3. The most dangerous species isn't the one with the most advanced technology. It's the one that can turn any technology into something new." The chamber hummed with discussion as the implications sank in. Humanity's influence had spread far beyond Earth. Across the galaxy, species were learning to embrace chaos as a tool of innovation. The rigid hierarchies of galactic society were giving way to more adaptive, creative approaches. But perhaps the most important lesson, Torres concluded, is that strength comes in many forms. The Zoraxians taught us we weren't ready for the galaxy. We taught the galaxy that ready doesn't mean what they thought it meant. She gestured to the human embassy staff, each member representing Earth's diversity. Engineers worked alongside artists. Scientists collaborated with gamers. Military strategists consulted with social media experts. What looked like chaos to other species was actually humanity's greatest strength, their ability to approach problems from every possible angle simultaneously. The new rules are simple, she summarized. Judge not by the path taken, but by the solutions found. Measure not by the technology possessed, but by the creativity shown in its use. And most importantly, never underestimate a species that turns limitations into opportunities. As the council session concluded, the galactic community had accepted a new truth. Humanity's apparent primitive state hadn't been a weakness. It had been incubating a different kind of strength. They hadn't failed to advance. They'd advanced in ways no one else had imagined possible. The stars themselves seemed to shine differently now, as countless civilizations began to learn that sometimes the best way forward wasn't up, but in every direction at once. The age of rigid advancement was over. The era of adaptive innovation had begun. And somewhere on Earth, a child playing with blocks was probably inventing the next revolution in quantum physics, simply because nobody had told them it was impossible.